Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling. Who the fuck is that you fucking with?
The thing about hip hop is that it's from the underground, ideas from the underbelly, from the people who have mostly been locked out, who have not been recognized. Russell Simmons.
Hip hop homies are the craziest.
This is the 80s, and the lady that you see in the picture is my mother. And the background neighborhood that you see, yeah, I grew up there, the Herman Garden Projects in the city of Detroit, Michigan. I come from humble beginnings. In Detroit, we learned to make something out of nothing. We appreciated everything that we had, and we were happy. Really?
Yeah, I do things with neighborhood kids and stuff. They ride my mini bikes and go-karts and stuff like that on the track. They say,
Oh, so it's like a go-kart.
yeah, this go-kart track.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, they go all the way down there. I'm about to make a dip for this year and stuff.
This is nice.
You know, we just have fun in the neighborhood. I have a big movie screen upstairs like this. That's my movie screens, and I have my movies up here.
Really?
I just built this shed up here. I just built that, so I'm about to paint that white. We're going to start playing video games on the shed.
That is nice. Well, bless you for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, you take care.
Sure.
All right. As you can see, I come from a culture that already knew how to make something from nothing. But I can remember when I first heard the song, The Glamorous Life by Cool C. I saved up my money and walked to the gas station and got the cassette tape. And I listened to it over and over again. And at that time, I didn't know what I was really listening to, but I knew I wanted the glamorous life. So hip hop allowed me to see things that weren't visible around me. So you haven't been prompted about answering this question. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you the question, how does graffiti art and hip hop relate to one another, if they relate to one another at all?
Graffiti art.
Graffiti art.
I think that graffiti art is to traditional art what hip hop is to traditional music.
Okay.
What I mean by that is graffiti art breaks the boundaries of number one, having to be a quote professional and levels the playing field with that and takes you to a new genre because you're not compelled to have to follow the constraints that the art medium may give you. Hip hop, as I understand how it was developed, is very similar. that it is not following the constraints of music and levels the playing field so that you don't.
Now, how do you think that graffiti art and hip hop is related?
Graffiti art and hip hop. Well, I mean, other than the fact that they're both about the streets, right? And in a way, graffiti is almost like a documentation of hip hop, in that art is a form of communication. It is like, documenting what's happening in the streets. Yeah.
So, how do you feel about the graffiti here in New York City?
The graffiti in New York City and how I feel about it is destruction, lawlessness, people's property being vandalized and everything else like that, and no respect.
So, how do you feel about the people who say that it's art? Is this a lot of
It's
people
not
out
art.
there?
It's not art. When you do art, you put it on a campus or you do it someplace where people allow you to do it. But just put it anywhere on the trains and everything else. No, I don't go along with it because you're supposed to be in a civilized country, and when you just tear your country down, you're no longer civilized. You're being lawless and no respect the property and have no value. You don't value yourself. You don't respect yourself. And you don't respect anybody else.
Thank you. Now, I'm not a big proponent of people writing on buildings and cars or anything that they feel like they should write on. However, I do understand that oftentimes when people are raised in environments in which they are not given a voice or an outlet to express their creative and artistic talent, they will find a way to show and display this to the world. So this is what I think hip hop and graffiti have in common, that it allowed people to use their imagination. And they are so ambitious. Right? Where did the ambition come from to create such great video?
It's just being an artist. It's just being creative. It's like if you were, if I was a painter, I wouldn't like stop my creativity because the canvas was only, just 8 by 11. You're gonna paint, as much as you can in that space, and that's kind of what, it's the same thing. There's been times where I've wanted to do more and wasn't able to, whether it was financial or the artist, wasn't there on time or we ran out of time or things like that. But, the product, I've always been proud of the product.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Or see the graffiti that was on the New York subway station.
God, it's been for my entire life that I can remember seeing anything.
But how did that make you feel when they tried to equate the graffiti to hip hop music, or now that it is a part of hip hop music?
I mean, everything was happening at the same, like when in the 70s, things were just happening and life was just exploding, basically, right? Just excitement and energy and art and music, right? Like everything, the world was so, or New York was just such the coolest place on earth to live, right? So you get on the subway, you know, you're seeing the subway cars go by and they have these beautiful colors, and then you say, oh, look, it's covering the windows every now and then. That was kind of like, you know, but in the beginning it wasn't covering the windows from the outside. Anyway, but then you get inside the car and it's this explosion of all these tags. And some of them are small, some of them are bigger, but everybody had been writing on stuff anyway. You know how I used to write in the bathroom on the walls.
Right.
So then now it's in the subway car, to the point where you get on and actually you have something to look at. So I found it, and I was like young. I was like 14 when I started really, maybe 13, 12 when I started really noticing it. And it just stayed, and then suddenly they made people start having to clean it off with toothbrushes. That was their torture. But there was a train station, there was a subway station, but it was like between 96th Street and 86th Street, I think, that was filled with graffiti. And it never stopped there. It stopped stopping there. And like you would actually be on a train like, oh, let me look. Wait, we're getting to that part, because it goes slow and it slowed down with it, and you could see it, but it was dimly lit. It was so weird.
Okay.
So interesting. But in terms of my connection to hip hop and graffiti, I wasn't making that connection at the time. I didn't make it at the time when I got to DC and I was listening to Sugar Hill Gang, because you know, music travels in different regions at different paces, right? I never made the connection until maybe in the 2000s, maybe.
Okay.
About then, when I would you just heard it in the street everywhere, and I just happened to know graffiti artists. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's what they listened to.
Was hip hop.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Being that you are from New York, when did you start to see the graffiti written over the buildings?
Oh my God!
And
Like
trains?
since I was, I mean, we're talking about like the early '70s, but I would say by like the late '70s, early '80s, like it was just everywhere. It wasn't until Giuliani became mayor that they made an effort to remove the graffiti, and then Bloomberg like just eradicated it. Yeah, but yeah, I say from like the early '70s, you know, and it just got gradually, you know, worse or better, depending on how you look at it, towards like the, you know, the '80s, the end of the '80s.
Hey, and one last question. Why do you think that hip hop resonates with most people? Now, if you think about like different genres of just creative dance or art of some sort, sometimes it resonates with people of an upper echelon, and sometimes things resonate with people that come from like working environments or working class people. But why do you think that hip hop resonates with everybody?
Because it's authentic. It's like an authentic voice, and I think that's what makes everything successful. When you think about Cardi B, I think everyone loves Cardi B because she's just her authentic self. She's not trying to be anything. You know what I mean? She's just being herself. I mean, and when you think about, you know, across hip hop, it really is the most authentic voices. You think about Biggie. That's like the most, you know, he's just like, or even Tupac, you know, those are like really authentic, or Most Def. those are real authentic voices. That's what really, really, I think that's what really resonates with everyone creatively. But then you have like, you have a lot of white kids or kids from, middle class or middle class family. They aspire to that authenticity. They want to feel what it's like to live in places that are talking about these things, or they want to know what it's like, and they want to hear from authentic voices. They don't want to hear from someone who's trying to be, from Bed-Stuy or from the Bronx or Harlem.
Thank you.
If ain't nobody tell y'all how to be the first two, hip-hop homies are the craziest.
So my last question is, do you think as a photographer who understands the arts industry, do you think that graffiti is vandalism or art?
I think it's according to the graffiti. Okay? I think that I grew up in Philly, so graffiti, I know, have a long history of graffiti. And so early graffiti, which you probably don't know who Chewy is, okay, but Chewy was one of the early graffiti artists in Philly. When the graffiti's about tags, name tags, that's about ego. When you put an ego, now you've minimized art. That's just for me, okay? But putting that aside, in terms of imagery and color, yes, it is art.
That's real good.
Ain't